All right, welcome everybody to the next and last episode of Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the review. I essentially for this video, they're normally pretty short, like 3 to 5 minutes, nothing too crazy. We rate the game kind of out of 10, and we go over the story, the world, the gameplay, and the quality. If you haven't seen one of my previous reviews so far on the channel, we kind of keep it quick, keep it simple, and go from there. So overall, I had to give this game like a 6. Um, and I'll go into explaining why, but it didn't for me. There was a lot of anger around it. Now there are ways for this game to be bumped up to like a 7 or an 8. They were just things that I did not do at the beginning. Um, but we'll get into that when we get into that. So first, let's start with the story. The story was decent. It was a little. The main premise of it, of like some religious guy trying to take over basically and use an evil entity to take over the world slash the galaxy in this case. Uh, Pretty average, right? The overall premise of the story is pretty average, being it in the Guardians of the Galaxy, um, yeah, like Marvel universe. It makes it cooler, and some of the details are a lot more fun in that regard. Overall, the story was the details of the story, while the story being average, the details within the story and throughout the storyline were pretty good. I'd say it's above average. That brings us into the world at review of the game. Um, a lot of those details revolve around the world specifically, and the world was really well made. That was probably my favorite part of the game, being that throughout the world, the set pieces were really well done. The different worlds and stuff that you visit were fantastic, and they were very very different from each other, and it was pretty cool. Um, Not only that, but during the like while you're going out and about during this story throughout the world, there was so much conversation. The writing for the game was spectacular. That was it. Really made the game what it is, and it really made the good parts of the game memorable. The writing was great, the voice acting was spectacular. We'll get into that a little bit more later too, but for the story worked very very well with the world, and those were some of the stronger points of it. The weak part of the game was the gameplay. I let me rephrase that a little bit. The beginning of the game, I was doing normal difficulty. Not even the beginning. Like 90% of the game, I was doing normal difficulty, right? Enemies just seemed to be sponges for really no apparent reason. Like there were gameplay mechanics. I didn't tend to go into them like too much. Basically, each member had a different like abilities. They had 4 different abilities that you could use that you would get throughout the thing. I only ever really used 1 or 2 consistently because I knew what they did, and I just didn't want to memorize 16, no, 20, including my own 20 different like abilities and stuff to use. And enemies just seem to be sponges. A lot of fights last way longer than I feel like they should have. Towards the end of the game, when I was trying to just finish the game up, we changed it so the settings were the combat was actually easy slash quick. They were no longer sponges. I felt like I was actually doing damage to enemies. And some of them, like, you still had to use the special abilities to stun them and actually do damage to them. That made the game actually way more enjoyable. The gameplay, it made the combat sequences a lot faster, and the in my personal opinion, it made them the correct speed. I wasn't constantly like, okay, this fight is getting old, this fight sucks, like I was before. The first like 25 episodes, I was getting fed up towards the end. I was like, man, it just takes forever. We get into a battle and it would last, half to 3/4 of an episode. And I was like, well, that was way too long for just normal enemies and stuff like that. So that was definitely the drawback for me. Um, that brings us to the quality. The cinematics are really good, great voice acting, and just spectacular writing. As I mentioned before, the whole story and the bickering back and forth between the characters, all of that stuff was spectacular. The world, the different world stuff was cool. The quality was overall great. I think the one thing that really made me angry about the game was the gameplay, was the combat essentially. Now, this game, for the most part, since I played it on normal and the gameplay really drawed it back for me, if I were to replay this, I would put it on the easy combat difficulty, and that would definitely bring the game up to a, like a 7 or an 8, because the rest of it's so good. The rest of the game is spectacular. Um, this game, I think it's hard to find nowadays. I think you can buy it from some places. I don't know how much it is, but I'd say if it was interesting, if it's cheap, if it's on sale, it's definitely worth, 10, $20, right? I think we put in like 15 or so hours, and we kind of streamlined it towards the end a little bit. So, if you wanted to do higher difficulty, or, really go through everything the game has to offer, because there's a lot of stuff that I probably missed. It could last a lot longer. It could go up to, 20, 25 hours, depending on how difficult you want the combat to be, how much sponginess you want them to have, and whatnot. And you can go through and you can change basically everything about the combat if you really want to. It's all in the settings, which is awesome, I think. So I think it's definitely worth it if it's on sale, $20 maybe. But that's just, my personal opinion. Let me know what you thought, especially if you watched the series or if you've played the game before. Let me know what you thought about it, what you would rank it, and be interesting to have some conversations down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, whatever it is, and I will see you in the next series. Peace.